Welcome to Industry and Adjoin, the community for uplifting data literacy across Australia. We bring conversations from data leaders straight to your ears to help you with your career, learning and development. When I was a data analyst, I was lost in the industry, and these are the conversations I wish I had. My name is Douglas. I'll be your host, recovering data analyst and founder of DR Analytics Recruitment, sponsor for Industry and Adjoin. We're about to get inside information from a data leader straight from their mouth and the inside scoop on how you can develop your career. So let's get into it. First online edition, Community, Industry and Adjoin. We're aiming to uplift data literacy across Australia. I'm the host in this situation and still figuring things out, but former data analyst, now have DR Analytics Recruitment tech agency. But this is all about you today, Ash, as the first guest.
I'm excited.
I had a few notes about your career. 15 years, systems administrator, now data manager at South 32, insurance, social gaming, education, property as well. And I believe soon to be book writer, data product lover, and Substack writer. Maybe you can give yourself a better introduction.
Awesome. I think the one thing you're missing from that is I actually started my career out being a network engineer, which is intentionally left off my my LinkedIn profile. But yeah, I did network engineering and did not like living in a server room with air cons and everything. So I transitioned out of that pretty quick. But no, my name's Ash. I think it's probably close to 15, 20 years now. I don't know. Doug's pretty good.
That's a long time.
Yeah, you're pretty good at reminding me how old I am. So yeah, it's probably more 20 years now. But no, I started out network engineering and then transitioned to be a system admin at Curtin University. And I think how I fell into, I suppose, a career around data is when they asked me to onboard university students through this XML file manually. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to automate that because that's what technical people do, right? They just want to automate everything. So I built a pipeline for it. And like, this was like pre-ChatGPT, pre-Stack Overflow era. So I had to read documentation and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I built a pipeline. And I suppose that was data engineering back then. It's not called data engineering. I think I was a sysadmin or systems analysis, but no. And then I suppose I transitioned into doing more, they called it prop tech back then, which is more like kind of similar to like fintech, but doing more like technology around like property management, which was pretty awesome. It got me a job in America working in Silicon Valley for a while, which was, you know, the place to be if you're a nerd, which was great. But everything's been, I suppose, centered around data. And I suppose since then, like you said, Doug, I've, you know, been fortunate enough to work in insurance, online gaming, and now I've been working in mining for a global mining company for the last 4 years in pretty much every data role there is, besides, I suppose, more of a data scientist. I've never really sort of ventured into that territory.
Mm.
Yeah.
Everything. And now data with rocks. Most important thing in WA.
Data with rocks, yeah.
Very good.
But we get data from everywhere around the world, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is you've obviously met a lot of data professionals in your career. You have been one, now leading them.
Yep.
What makes a good data professional?
What makes a good data professional? I think the best data professionals that I've ever met or are friends with, they're life learners. Like the data industry is just changing so fast. And I think anyone that follows the data industry right now knows that it's just, you know, every day you wake up, there's a new technology. Well, maybe not new technology, new model version, you know, new GPT, new AI, DeepSeek a few months ago, like blew the world away just within a day. But no, they're life learners. They love to learn. And they've really sort of focused on the foundations. some of the best data professionals I know as well are actually ex-software engineers. So they actually bring that, again, back to the foundations, that real strong software engineering background to the craft of, I suppose, being a data professional, as opposed to, a self-serve data professional that's just trying to get stuff done, which is fine. But I suppose your question was the best data professional.
What makes it good?
Yeah.
I think some of the challenge now in the industry is learning what to learn, because there's so many different pathways you can go down. Power BI, Tableau, Click. How do you stay up to date, or recommend people stay up to date?
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I think we heard this. We may have been sitting next to each other, Dougie, at the DR Eng Bytes conference in Sydney, and one of the guys just said to play often, right? Like, stuff is coming out, like I keep saying, like weekly. Some of it's really good. Some of it doesn't work yet, especially in AI. Like, keep coming back to it and keep playing with it. And I think passionate people in the data industry will go home and dabble with that new technology that may not be ready for the enterprise yet, but they're taking that time at home to play with it. But again, to be a broken record, like if you've nailed the foundations, and when I say foundations, I mean Git, understanding data structures, understanding the life cycle of data engineering. That, in my opinion, is more important than, understanding the next bleeding edge, AI model. Because I made a joke with my team, well, maybe not a joke, but it was like, we were here before Gen AI, data engineering, and we'll be here after, I suppose, Gen AI. I'm a big advocate for AI, but everything always is somehow come back to clean data, accurate data. That's always been the foundation. So I think if you're good at that, you understand that, like, you've got a pretty good, footing in the industry, as opposed to being a master at a piece of technology that may be irrelevant in 3 months' time. Yeah. Yeah.
The data engineering has grown in popularity immensely. And we have Snowflake, Databricks, Fabric, different data platforms. I speak to a lot of people that are analysts or even junior graduates that want to transition to data engineering. Where do they start?
Where do they start? I promise I won't say get good at the foundations.
Just play, be fine.
I suppose it depends on their situation, right? Like, if it was me, and I had people, where I work South 32 that, spent most of their time, on the front end, whether it be Power BI, Tableau, I'd probably ask them, go speak to, the engineering team and ask them for that opportunity. I usually work on the front end, is there an opportunity I could potentially, shadow one of the data engineers, and, build the next pipeline. Any data engineer I know would probably lean into that, and, help them do it the right way. Because I think anyone can build a pipeline, right? Most people can get in there and do it.
I've built some terrible ones in my time.
Yeah. And data engineers, they're more accustomed to wanting it to be done, right. It's built, cost effective. It's designed in a way if that person who built it leaves the company, someone else can pick it up. So go speak to your data team, see if you can do it. But, also self-learn, right? If you're applying for a job, you can give some advice there. What sort of portfolio do they have where they've demonstrated it? Anyone can sign up for Databricks now and get the whole thing for free. It's awesome. It was released at the, Data AI Summit this year. Log into Databricks, build some pipelines, demonstrate your capability. Everything online is free. That would be my advice.
To that person that doesn't have a data engineer that they know in their company, they may be the whole data team at their company.
Yeah.
Their advice for them is go play with Databricks or Snowflake.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure, again, just focusing on Databricks, but I imagine Snowflake, Fabric, they're all the same. But, Databricks have a free academy that can teach you the basics. I'm pretty sure I saw online recently that they're giving away free certifications. Anyone can download all the software like DBT and everything for free. DBT have their academy like for free. So there's really not, in my opinion, like an excuse for people wanting to, venture into data engineering without, learning and self-learning at home themselves. Under the situation, they don't have that opportunity to do that, where they work. So I think very situational, but I would self-learn is my advice.
That's on the technical skills. I hear a lot from hiring managers developing communication and soft skills as well as almost 50% of the reason why they might hire someone.
Yep.
What do you look for in someone when we talk about soft skills, and how does someone develop that? Because it sucks to hear develop soft skills and you're like, well, how do I do that?
Look, I think it's hard to tell someone like, go develop soft skills, right? Just like you said. But I do feel like they should get some support by their line manager or like a friend of like, what type of soft skills are they after? I can tell you what I look for. Probably like the number one is like the willingness to wanting to learn it. I think the day and age of not just data engineers, but software engineers of just sitting in a corner and, coding 100% of your time are coming to an end. Like maybe it still exists in bigger companies, but you need to be willing to go speak to the business, ask the right questions. Why do you need this data? I always like to bring up the example of, everyone wants real-time data, right? Like create me a data pipeline. I want it to be real-time. If the data engineer or whoever, what their title is, just did that, it'd be insanely expensive. So the data engineer needs to have that confidence to, want to understand, why do you want this data, right? Like
monthly reporting. Okay.
Exactly, right? Like, do you know this real-time pipeline is going to cost you $10,000 a month, or we can batch it and it will cost you $50. So I think the data engineer needs to be confident enough to want to ask those basic questions. What problem are you trying to solve? How do you solve that problem now? I like to say, if you had a magic wand right now and you could wave it, what would you sort of form? Like, what would that be? So ask those questions. Because I think if a data professional or a data engineer is willing to understand just 10, 15% more of how it's used upstream, they will differentiate themselves from anyone else in the team. So don't rely on your product owner to be the conduit.
Mm.
Yeah. I always encourage people in my data teams, like, just go speak to the business. Like, what do they think? Ask questions. The whole 5 whys, like, why do you want that? Without sounding like a record.
Keep asking why.
Keep asking why until you get to the root cause. And then, then you can be confident enough you're actually solving, I suppose, the right problem instead of just playing with cool tech, which is fun. But, data teams get a bad rep for, not being cost effective or delivering value. So I think if we ask more questions, data teams can get better at transition from, cost centers to profit centers, or however you want to word it.
I think that comes into advocating for the data team and in your job. Yep. So I believe that a lot of the value in data is from how the data analytics team articulates it to the business as well. They go hand in hand.
Yep.
So telling someone, is it $10,000 or $50, or how difficult this is going to be to do, or how easy it is.
Yep.
Like, that's part of the value. What do you think about that in terms of?
I think it's a good question. I think value is subjective. Like, depending on who you ask, they'll give a different answer. If there's a team of 5 people and you ask them, like, what is success or what is value in this project, they may give you like different answers, what that value is. Let me explain that. I'm not trying to be subliminal. I think value doesn't always come in as like an ROI from like a dollar figure. If that makes sense. So data teams, like as a whole, engineers, data scientists, they can sometimes be working on, regulatory stuff, if that makes sense. So there's no real value there besides they have to do it. Yeah. I work in mining, so we do lots with safety data. I can't put a dollar figure next to that as far as the value the team has created. But if I asked, the safety teams, they would say this is insanely valuable. We can't live without it. So, not sure I asked your question, Doug, but I think having that shared understanding in your company of the types of value, the value drivers that those data teams go after, I think is really important. And having that boss or that data manager that does continuously advocate, because let's face it, like data teams aren't cheap. So you kind of have to continuously advocate for what value they're creating or what problems they're solving in the business. Yeah.
If you're advocating for, say, your company's on-prem and you want to go, let's go to the cloud, or if you're advocating for, you want to get budget for a new data governance policy, and you may be the data analyst in the team, but you went to industry and joined V13, and you were like, I'm going to champion data governance. And that's a hard thing because there's really no revenue attached to it. Where does that start in talking to the business?
Good question. I feel like this is going to come out like pre-rehearsed, but I promise it's not, because I've been speaking about it a fair bit lately. It's more like what happens if we don't do it, right? I always like to refer data governance in particular as like insurance, right? Like insurance always seems like a money pit, especially when you don't use it. So I think governance needs to be flipped upside down. It's like, what happens if we don't govern our data? Like we could have a data security breach and we could end up on 7Now, right? We could leak PI data to wrong areas in the department. That all circles around, governance. And, with the advent of all the AI projects now, data governance is data quality, right? So what kind of results are we going to get from our $1 million AI POCs if we don't have good quality data? So it's more what happens if we don't do it, as opposed to just saying, let's do Dharma, like data governance. It's, I think it's different now. And even at the end of the year, again, sharing a story from where I work, it's, you go through the data teams and their successes, AI team, they lots of successes, analytics teams, lots of successes. And then you go to the governance team and it's like, what's the governance team's successes? And it's like, I read this somewhere, so I didn't make it up. It's like, you guys should celebrate what didn't happen. It's like, do you have any data security breaches, or did you have any like failures of all the things you're working on for everything to be proactive? So if you're on a data governance team, I think you should celebrate what didn't happen and share that with your managers. Yeah.
Technically, your success is unlimited. Then. I'm the backbone of this organization.
But depending on your company will depend on how important governance is as well, right? Like if you work for an insurance company or a finance company, you're APRA regulated. Governance gets a seat at the table always. Whereas other companies that may not be regulated, like, you really have to put a lot more effort into advocating like why you're there, what value you're creating. And like I said, what happens if you go on a year-long holiday? What happens?
Yeah. What's not happening due to our activity? Yeah.
But I think governance is changing lots. Like governance teams of 50 people, maybe in APRA-regulated companies still exist, but a lot of governance now is being automated. Like AI is helping with that. Data catalogs now are curating it for you automatically. So I don't know if the job ever existed of like data catalog curator or something, but I think that job's dead. AI's taken over that. Yeah.
Haven't heard it yet. Still waiting.
But no, I still think the roles exist, data stewards and it's mainly the insurance companies that I really see investing a lot in those dedicated data governance manager jobs. But that's Perth, I suppose. You'd know more, Doug. Yeah.
Clear. I want to pivot to data products.
Yeah.
I don't know much about data products, and speaking with other people, it comes up sometimes, but I'm always happy to be educated.
Should come more.
Maybe it will after this conversation. So what's all the fuss about data products? What do they mean to you?
Data products. Data products is actually, it's a term that's been used for quite a while. I'd like to quote early 2000s. I can't remember the book. I should know it. But I actually wrote a blog article recently as well. Selfish plug on my Stack Overflow, which is like, we should stop like fussing over the definition to data products. I was speaking to a data practitioner, and it was like 8 people in Data Day, Texas, all trying to come up with this industry definition for data products. And I wasn't there, but I heard they all left the meeting or the chat, whatever it was, and they all didn't agree on it. So like my view, I will give my definition in a minute, is we shouldn't worry about it. But my definition is a data product is a piece of data, essentially, which is a mixture of code, infrastructure, metadata that is treated as a product, and it must deliver value, essentially. And then you may ask, Doug, it's like, how is that different to, say, a table in just like a database or something like that? And I think it all comes down to the word product in it, right? Like, a product is used by a lot of people, so you need to look at it that way. And let me explain. It's like going back to how a data engineer can influence that. It's like, how are you using this data? Like, empathizing with them. Like, was it easy to use? Was it hard to use? For instance, a lot of big companies are really going in with data products as well. I remember sitting at a workshop with SAP, and they've gone all in, and their SAP for HANA products, they call everything data products. And the way they're doing it as well is you should be able to open this data product and know straight away, what is the intent behind this data? What can I use it for? So they've invested a lot of time, and it's like documentation, how easy it's to understand. It should be easy to access. You shouldn't have to call up IT and wait 3 days to get access. So there's that usability characteristic to it. But
is there an aspect of its semantics vernacular in terms of, here's a BI dashboard project for HR? You could call that a data product once it's finished.
Yeah. It's like I mentioned before, like, it is that coalesce between the infrastructure, the data, the code, and the metadata, right? And you could, I suppose, the visualization layer could be part of that. But I think you touched on the word semantic there as well, right? So anyone who's had the misfortune of working with, SAP's not, I doubt SAP will listen to this, but if they did, like, their data is so hard to work with. They clearly didn't think of their consumers of that data, and it's really hard to work with, right? And they don't use a semantic that most people understand. When I say semantic, it's like they're using their own language.
German.
So they just, SAP, what's up. So if you're building your dashboard, what you're talking about, like, are you building it from a technical mindset and a language that the data engineers know? Or have you taken the time to, speak with the business, and, it's got that, it's semantically aware. They can use it easy, essentially. So again, I don't think companies should slap the word data product just to say we do data products. I think that's a huge fallacy that some people do, but I would also say, don't try to think of data products as it's a data product or not. I do think it's like a sliding spectrum. Like, every company, every team is different. I think you should probably look at it in the aspect of, as a team, if we agree on what the definition of a data product is, how aligned is this report or model to our definition, essentially? And I do think if you, like, buy a book like Data Mesh or something, which outlines the characteristics, you can kind of agree as a team, which ones do you guys care about? There are, in my opinion, a minimum characteristics everyone should adopt
for a product.
For it to be a product. Must deliver value, must be easy to use, should be easy to, discover, through a data catalog. It should be, reusable, so we can, have like an ecosystem. You don't want to like duplicate data everywhere and have silos, all those things. Anyone on a data team probably can, nod their head at a few of those
problems. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to move away from the deep waters of data products and go before I start drowning. In terms of more career advice, you've progressed from network engineer.
Yep.
It's funny to know that now. That's now public.
Yeah.
To data manager.
Yep.
If you were to give advice to yourself 10 years ago on how to get there, what would you say to little Ash? He would have been what? How old? He would have been quite. What would you say to little Ash in terms of how to get to where you are now, possibly faster?
I think pay more attention to the business, right? Like, anyone on the call right now, or if they're listening to this, if they're a data engineer or a data analyst and they're working on a project right now, ask yourself, do you know how that's contributing to the business? Like, do you know what, I don't know, KPI that's influencing, or where it sits in, the business strategy? I think for a while I didn't even consider that. I kind of just did stuff that entered my desk, whether it's in Jira and I just did it, or I was a consultant and we just wanted to make money. But as a company, it's kind of like, if you want to, grow up and, go up the business chain, you have to make that, I suppose, reality check that you need to understand more about the business. Maybe in big companies, you can be, a senior manager or whatever it is and be, full technical and be an individual contributor. But again, in my opinion, if you want to grow faster, it's that willingness to know more about the business. And I think if you don't know that, go speak to your line leader. Like, hey, we're working on these projects this quarter or this financial year. Like, why? We're obviously spending a lot of money here on our, Snowflake compute and, these projects. Where is that helping the business? And just keep asking questions. If your line manager doesn't know, that's a problem, then just go ask other people. And, I can't remember who gave me this advice, but it's go read your annual report. If that's what the company cares about, that's obviously top level stuff. So if you can find initiatives or ideas on using data or projects to help things in the annual report, I guarantee you, one, people will learn your name because that's not a common thing that data engineers or analysts may ask. But you'll definitely be differentiated because you understand the business more. And just being good at, I think, advocating what you're doing as well. Even as an individual contributor, I think you should get good at advocating what you do and understanding the impact. It doesn't have to be perfect, but, keep that career journal of, all the things you're doing and the impact you make with those. Again, Doug, you probably know this, but if I'm reading your CV and it's I build pipelines, it's that's terrific. But it's I build pipelines and it, this is why, this is the impact it made. They're the things that I wish I'd put in my CV or asked more questions about when I was younger, I guess. So long ago.
A while ago. Did you, when going from individual contributor manager, were you tapped on the shoulder or did you apply for something?
I knew I wanted to do it. I always enjoyed being an individual contributor. It was a while ago now. Just letting everyone know how old I am or getting old. I think I actually started networking. I think that's when I really started networking and just reaching out to people on LinkedIn that were in some form of a data manager role and just asked for coffee. And I think I just started having chats to as many people as I could. And I suppose it is luck, preparation meets luck, that one of those people that I did have a coffee with advertised a lead role. And they, I suppose, took a shot on me. I do think that's the hardest thing, if I'm honest, is whether it be internally and they're taking a shot on someone going from individual contributor to a lead role, or even harder if you're applying for a role externally and you don't have that demonstrated leadership experience. I think that's tough. Yeah.
Usually see promotions to management, less so exiting the business to jump a hierarchy.
Yeah. In hindsight, I'm always thankful for the company that took a shot on me, saying, I think this person is capable of leading a team. they kind of highlighted in their resume, that the characteristics, even though they didn't, bore the title or have, that hard one of like direct reports, which is, I don't think a lot of people realize, there's a lot of people management in leadership. It's not all
Sitting in boardrooms, writing annual reports. Nice.
Or luncheons and stuff. You do have to learn the people stuff and want to become good at creating value through multiplication as opposed to, individual. And you got to learn that stuff, through failure, books, YouTube, networking, and, get a mentor, those types of things. There's lots of avenues, I think. There's not one way, I think, to move into a leadership role. Yeah.
Oh, clear. That's going to wrap our time with each other. We're going to move to the Q&A.
Awesome.
But
I get some good questions.
I want to say thank you and where should people follow you as well? It's LinkedIn, Substack.
Definitely follow me on LinkedIn if you want to hear my my ramblings, my trolling, or I try post once a month on my Substack. And then February next year you can, a Saley drop. You can buy my book, which is on data products. Yeah.
Right. I hope to see a full definition in there.
Yeah, there will be. I'm defining my definition, which I refer to as a blueprint, not a recipe. You shouldn't follow it step by step. You should adjust it depending on the maturity of your company.
Okay. There's a nice disclaimer clause right there. Very nice.
It's not a risky thing. It's just to get